Alright, good morning. As promised, I'm gonna run you through the quick and dirty on the gear train for South Bend. 9C is mine. So, there's your whole gear train. You've got a lot of stuff on the way right now. I noticed what parts you do have on hand and what parts you don't have on hand. So, I'm going to take it down to the bits you do have, and what I think you are missing that is kind of critical. So, first things first, all the nuts and fasteners on this are almost always, if memory serves, 7/16. And the stock wrench for the South Bend lathe is not actually the standard 7/16 diameter. So that's worth being aware of if you do have, the actual wrench that was original to the lathe. So those are the change gears that I just put out of the way there. I'm going to set my fasteners down here as well. So first things first, this is pretty straightforward piece. It's tube and it has a shoulder down here. It's actually got two shoulders, but don't want to get too far into the weeds. This just spaces it out from the adjuster thing here that looks like rabbit ears. And you've got two of those, okay? They're necessary for actually getting the gear train to align correctly and for adjusting the amount of gear lash you have. The other thing is the bolts for this are square-headed and they are also 7/16 thread. So they need to be sized appropriately. You've got another spacer right here that also has a shoulder cut on it, and it goes onto your lead screw here. And after you slack off the square nut for your rabbit ears, you can just wiggle and poof, off it comes. I know you have the rabbit ears. I saw that in the picture you posted on Facebook. Now, up here at the top, let's scroll up here, is a bit that I'm pretty sure I did not see. And this is the reversing gear setup. So you go up, you would then torque the screw I just dropped down, and then it would be going in reverse or forward depending on how your change gears down at below are set up. This whole assembly does actually pop out. These are drilled through. They have wicks in them for oiling. This one here also, if memory serves, has an oiling wick right down in here, which poor lighting will not allow me to show you, but it's got another hole here that goes all the way down through to the shaft of this here. So that allows this whole gear assembly to be oiled and kept lubricated. So that is what we've got for that part immediately. And I know I'm missing a spacer on my lead screw to keep it from shuffling back and forth. I should cut one, but I have other things I need to get done right now. So anyway, more in a moment. Alright, next bit is the tensioner assembly. You've already got everything going on back here. That's great, but one thing I do highly suggest, by the look of your lathe, you should probably go through and get a new set of felt wicks. There's a guy who sells them on eBay, and I think he's over in Raleigh. So kind of in my backyard, but you can get a short set for the 9C. I think it was less than 50 bucks. I'll try to dig up the link if I remember to and send that on to you. But it has new wicks for everything. It also has replacement fiber washers for back here to allow everything on the back end of this to also be lubricated correctly. So the main bit that you need for tensioning is this here. This actually has both a right and left hand thread to it. So as I turn this, you'll notice this down here gets closer. And as I turn it the other way, it gets further away. Essentially, this is a tensioning nut. You've got this piece right here. I don't recall what thread this tension nut actually is. It also has a slot that goes clear through it, so you can actually stick a screwdriver in there to haul it around if you really need to. You've got holes that are already drilled through on these pieces that turn at right angles to actually go through the holes here. Normally they require cotter pins, however I like clevis pins. They're easier to remove, so if I do actually have to disassemble the thing, it's easier for me than trying to unbend really fine little bits on cotter pins. So that is essentially the main primary bit you need, and I didn't see it on your photo, so this one will probably be the one you really need to get. If you do not have this piece, like I said, do let me know, because I can cut one of these with a little bit of effort and time. It's not gonna make me shed tears to do single point threading that small. It's slightly frustrating, but it's survivable. The other thing that, personal preference, I recommend is having a flat belt that is not actually laced. I got this one on eBay 3 or 4 years ago. It is a Megadyne, that is Megadyne brand. T150, and it is 45 inches. So you can use that to either reference or cross-reference. There are several different flat automotive serpentine belts that you can also get. But no matter how you swing it, you are going to have to disassemble and take the shaft, the primary drive shaft, out of your drive wheel back here. That means the shaft that goes all the way through this. And you'll have to remove the shaft, or the spindle shaft as well, that runs all the way through here. So you're going to have to live with that judgment. If you don't want to get into those, that's fine, but you're going to have to get into those if you want to replace the wicks. And I would highly, highly recommend you do, at least to get a good solid look at them and make sure that they have not gone to pot. Because if they have, you are going to gall up the bearing surfaces for your spindle in a heartbeat, and you do not want that grief. The other thing that I cannot stress enough is making sure that these pigs stay oiled. Okay, they do not have roller bearings in them. They do not have ball bearings in them. Okay, this is a bearing surface, yes, but it is just a bearing surface between the spindle and the housing, or excuse me, and the race. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be very careful when you take it apart. I know there are a couple of videos on taking these lathes apart. Who is it? Halligan, I believe is his name. He has a South Bend 9C that he took apart and restored and uses frequently. He did a beautiful video on it. I highly recommend it. Additionally, the guy that sells all the felt wicks that I mentioned sends this along as well, which you will dearly need if you take it apart. It's not that the whole thing is completely terrible and complex. It's that you need to be cautious and know where that part you have left over came from. Alright, so I've nattered on at you for a while now. You should have the general idea. If you have specific questions you need the answer to, by all means ask, and I'll do what I can to provide you appropriate answers. Later.